Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 12:04. Our next case is Mr. Joe Bailey. Mr. Bailey, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Joe Bailey, 13-0053.
Mr. Bailey, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record. Then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who wish to have input to speak. Your girlfriend, Ms. Shalika Eggins, is on the line and she wishes to speak today. At the end of the hearing, you'll have an opportunity to say, make a statement to the parole board before we vote. You understand our procedure, sir?
Yes, sir.
This is the matter of Joe L. Bailey, DOC number 130053, date of birth March the 7th of 1967. He's a fourth-class felony offender with a parole eligibility date of August the 21st of 2021. He has an adjusted good time date of August the 27th of 2035. He has a full term date of August the 21st of 2036. He is serving a 20-year sentence on the charge of simple burglary after being adjudicated a habitual offender. Mr. Bailey, is all of that information accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bailey, your case was assigned to me, so I'll begin our interview process. Mr. Bailey, how old are you, sir?
6, sir.
I'm sorry?
6, sir.
I'm having trouble. I heard you, but I'm having trouble hearing you. I wasn't having trouble before with the other persons. Is your microphone, can you get a little closer to your microphone or can they turn it up a little bit?
Yeah, go and speak into it now. You can hear me now, sir?
Yes, sir. I can hear you better now. Thank you. You're 56 years old. Mr. Bailey, how long have you been in prison on these charges?
About 8 years.
How many?
8. Speak up. 8.
8 years. Okay. I am having difficulty. Maybe it's just me.
I can hear you.
No, he's breaking up. Tell me a little bit about your educational background, Mr. Bailey. How far did you go in school?
Well, I went to the 12th grade, sir.
You finished the 12th or you quit in the 12th?
I quit in the 12th, but I had went back to Jericho to finish my semester out on that. You gotta speak loud. Speak loud.
Did you graduate high school or did you go back and get your GED? I'm really having difficulty hearing you. I'm not sure why, but I am.
I went back and got my GED. I got that, sir.
Okay, now I can hear you better, so you need to speak up, okay? You got a good voice, so speak up. Tell me a little bit about your work history. What kind of work did you do on the outside?
Worked for a record at the Louisiana Down as a cook. I worked at Monkhouse Seafood as another cook. I had 2 jobs before I came in here.
Okay. And do you have children?
Yes, sir.
How many children do you have?
5.
5 children. How old are your children?
One of them 25, 27, and 18, and one is 19.
You have a relationship with those children?
Sir.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Okay. Tell me what you've done since you came before the board on June 21st of 2022, and you were denied at that time. Tell me what programs you've taken since you've been, since your denial. What have you done since then? Let's talk about programs.
I took pre-release. I took Cajun Rage. I took Living in Balance 1 and 2, Life in Focus, NAA, VIX Leadership, and Boys to Men.
So tell me which of those programs do you think was the most helpful for you?
Yes, sir. I feel like Life in Focus was for me because I kind of learned my triggers now because.
Tell me about focus. I'm not sure what that is. What's the program?
I was out of control. So I had to find myself. So now I'm in control of my life now. Now I have more respect for myself and respect for others now. Because I know by me not having respect for myself, I put myself in a situation by being here. And that's something I don't want to be in a place like this, and I have no respect for myself and I have no respect for other people. So
I show that you have had a number of arrests, 16 arrests, mostly burglary and theft. You had one armed robbery. Your first arrest was in 1984 when you were 17 years old. Why all the crime? Why all the stealing?
Well, when I was coming up, I didn't have a father in my life because my dad had died before I was born. So my grandmama had raised me. So I had kind of went towards the streets, like, and I thought the street was, like a home to me, but I'm making bad decisions, bad choices, bad friends.
Let's talk about the streets. Were you doing drugs?
I was smoking back then. I was smoking marijuana, drinking,
How often were you smoking marijuana?
Well, like a couple of days out of, like 2 days out of a week,
Did you progress more? Did you go to more than that?
After I did that, I did primo. And then that's when it got kind of worse when I got smoking the primo.
And so how often were you doing drugs?
On the primo, I used to do that like about 4 days out of a week.
And how long did you use that for?
When I was from 15 to about 18.
So did you ever get any treatment on the outside for drug or alcohol?
I took a program and my addiction and I then about me learning my triggers on that, I kind of gave that up, because I didn't want to live that lifestyle for as what I was doing out there doing wrong for stealing and lying, so I had to find myself, I had to go back to talk to God, about certain things, because you got to have God in your life. Because,
when you came to prison 8 years ago, were you still doing drugs?
No, sir. I had stopped doing drugs. I started drinking. That was a
Tell me about your drinking.
Well, I used to drink heavy liquor, beer, I thought it was, it eased my mind at times, but
How often were you drinking?
Mostly, I ain't gonna lie to you, sir. I'm gonna be truthful. Like almost every day. I'm not gonna lie about nothing. I just drink every day.
Is it fair for me and you to agree that you're an alcoholic?
No, sir.
You're not an alcoholic. Why were you drinking?
I thought you rephrase that again. I couldn't hear you.
I said, is it fair for you and I to agree that you are an alcoholic?
Yes, sir. I got to admit to my addiction. I was an alcoholic.
Now, tell me when did you stop drinking?
Well, when I went to prison the last time I got out, I had to make some commitments to myself that I was going down the wrong road, wrong pattern by drinking and not having respect for myself and respect for others. So I had to come to a point in my life, I had to get God in my life to start making better decisions and better choices. And so
you say the last time you got out of prison.
When I got out of prison, the last time I got me a job and started working and started doing positive things and
what happened?
I relapsed this time by making a bad decision when I had broke the victim one night, and I know that was wrong, and I apologize for that.
Were you drinking back then?
I had 2 beers, sir, when I got out of work.
You're going back to drinking.
I had drunk two beers.
How many beers can an alcoholic drink?
All right, you drink a lot, sir.
How many beers should an alcoholic drink? Let me put it that way.
Really, I feel like 2 3 beers.
An alcoholic should drink no beer, no alcohol of any kind. That's why I asked you, can you and I both agree that you are an alcoholic? I'm not sure if you heard me right the first time, but I thought you said no. Then you came back and you said, yes, I'm an alcoholic. I agree, I was an alcoholic. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. You don't believe those 2 beers had anything to do with what you did?
Made me have bad, I made a bad decision. Yeah, I did
Well,
wrong.
why did you make the bad decision?
At the time when I was telling my fiance, well, I got off work, and like I said, I was cheating and lying, and it caught up with me. And when I was telling the truth, and when you tell the truth, and when you lying, then it don't matter, because when you is telling the truth, and she thought I was not telling the truth, I did something wrong, and she laid there and called me on the phone and told
What
me. She
happens
said,
when you get out next time and things go bad? And it may not be the same thing, but you get under stress, you get concerned, you gotta lie about something, and we all lie about things. You gotta lie about things. You go back to drinking. What's gonna stop you from going back to drinking again? And then doing the same thing you ended up doing?
I want to think about this place here, because this is a place I don't want to be.
Well, how many times have you been to prison?
3 times, sir.
Well, you know, I mean, you've been here before. You ain't thought about this place when you got out? You did for a while, you were doing okay. Then you went back to drinking. So what's going to prevent you from going back to drinking? What's your plan? What's your sobriety plan?
Well, my sobriety plan, I'm gonna go to meetings, and I'm gonna be hanging around positive people doing positive things.
Okay, what kind of meetings you gonna go to?
In an AA.
Okay, well, tell me your familiarity within A and AA. What are those meetings about? And what do they do?
Well, in AA, I got to admit to my addiction. You got to always admit to your addiction. If you can't admit to your addiction, you're gonna never move forward. So I know I admitted to my addiction. I admit the fires of my triggers that I know what got me in here, but not
Have
thinking.
you ever gone to AA meetings when you've been out of prison?
I was on parole, they summoned to AA. I went there, I completed the program.
And what happened when you stopped going?
I didn't never stop going to the program. I completed it. Once I completed it, he gave me a certificate, and somebody can go.
Okay, now AA meetings is not just class. What do you consider to be an AA meeting? Tell me what your plan is going to be. You say you're going to go to meetings. What does that mean? You're going to go to a meeting once every month, or once every couple of months, or you're going to go to a meeting when you think you might be drinking? When are you going to go to meetings?
Every week. Every time they have.
I'm sorry?
Every week. Every week.
Well, have you ever done that before when you were out of prison? Did you go to AA meetings back then when you got out the last time? Then you stayed sober for a little while?
No, sir. I had just went to start working. I didn't go. No.
So you've never actually gone to AA meetings on the outside because work interfered with it and things like that. How important are AA meetings to you?
It means a lot, because it what got me in trouble not going, and that's why I'm in here. Because I was not thinking and drinking. So it means a lot. I need to go to NAA or any other meetings they have.
Have you ever had any long-term inpatient type treating for your alcoholism? Did you go to Steve Hoyle? Did you do Blue Walters? Have you done anything other than education courses on substance abuse?
No, sir. I never been to marijuana.
What are some of your triggers?
Well, some of my triggers are I learned that I know to commit to my wrongdoing. I learned that
admitting your wrongdoing isn't a trigger. That's the process that you go through. What are some of your triggers that trigger you to drink?
Being around positive, negative people that drinks and stuff like that. And that's why I don't want to be around negative people no more.
Well, I hear that's one thing. That's certainly one thing. What other triggers are there for you? You know, everybody says people in places. Yeah, sure. That's a trigger. Yeah, I don't want to be around negative people. But what other triggers or what specific triggers are yours? I mean, you mentioned one. Apparently you and your girlfriend got in some kind of argument. She didn't believe you, so you started drinking.
Well, I didn't start drinking that day, sir. It's just when I got off work that day.
Well, I hear you.
I went to the boat after I got off, I worked in the boat. And I had a fruit drink there, but this other person came to me, wanted a ride. So I told her, yeah, I'll give her a ride, but by me,
Back to the triggers. What are the triggers that make you drink? What happens when you get out and you can't get a job, or you get fired, or your girlfriend breaks up with you? What's going to keep you from going back to drinking?
I'm staying in contact with my higher power. I'm gonna talk to God. I'm gonna put God in my life. I need ask him to take that burden off me, because I don't need that.
God can't take the burden off of you if you don't do something positive to work with him to get it off of you. You say you're going to go to AA meeting. What else might you do?
Self-help programs.
Have you ever had a sponsor?
No, sir. I've never had a sponsor, but I need one when I get out.
Have you ever worked through all 12 of the steps?
I stated in my high power, going to my
That's
meeting.
the first step. First step is the high power. You got there. Did you get beyond that?
Yes, sir. I know I work with my sponsor. I read my literature and I go to my meetings, and I'm always trying to be on a positive level by anything I do now.
Where would you be living if you got out?
I'll be living with my fiance.
I'm sorry?
Living with my fiance
With your fiance. Where's that at?
in Bossier City and Shreveport.
And what kind of work would you be doing?
Air conditioning, refrigerating, cooling system.
Do you have a job?
Yeah, they got a job set up for me when I get out. Called student air conditioning, coolness.
What is do you work where you are now? What do you do while you're there during the day? What do you have a job there?
I
do you
started.
do?
I worked in clarification. I worked in the infirmary. Now I'm a trustee. I work outside the gate.
How long have you been a trustee?
Almost a year.
And you say you work outside the gate. What do you do?
I work at the dog farm, cut grass, whatever they want me to do, it doesn't matter. Whatever you tell me to do around here, I have no problem with it.
You're a member of SEA. Tell me what that is.
That was a cooking club where they have all type of meals they prepare for offenders around here. So we cook all type of meals. I like to cook.
Is that a club or is that just an order? Tell me what that is.
That's a club, where you go in, you cook for the compound, the free folks.
What can you tell us about Mr. Bailey?
Yes, sir, Mr. Marabella. Currently he is a trustee. He does a good job working out there in the field work. He does a lot of grass cutting for the compound, help keep the facility looking good. So he's really doing good in that aspect. One time prior to that, he actually was working in in the department up here, working in the classification department. He was working closely with a lot of the staff up here, and he had a good rapport with the staff up here as well. Myself and Bailey actually had a conversation just on the day, and I did tell him I think it's very important that he understand how important it is that he had to get extensive treatment, drug abuse treatment, because I really believe he actually need that. I really do.
Thank you, Warden. I appreciate the input. Now we hear from your girlfriend, Ms. Egan's. Good afternoon, Ms. Egan's. How are you? You're on mute. We need you to unmute your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can. Thank you.
Good morning. Yes, my name is Sharika Egan's. I reside in Bossier City, Louisiana. And Joe, he will be living with me if you all did grant him today. I just wanted to say roughly, Joe is a good person. He really is. He's very hardworking. He always took care of me and the kids. He left here. It was just me, him, and my daughter. Um, he worked 2 jobs, cooking. He loved cooking. Now that he's done, we have like 7 grandkids now. And me working as a manager, I been there doing that 20 years. Now I have my own business um, in cleaning, janitorial cleaning. And one of my clients was one of the ladies that worked close with Joe at foot worker at the Louisiana Downs where he cooked at. And she's one of my clients. And I have the DMV over here in Bossier that I am doing, and I'm going to school for business administration. So he can work closely with me too as well. And my cousin has his own air conditioner and heating system business, Carlos Suds, and he was willing to give him a job there too as well. So he will be surrounded by a lot of family. He lost his mom since he's been incarcerated, but he do has my grandmother, my mom, which is at dialysis. She would have been here today too to speak on as well. But he has my family. We are very family oriented, and he'll have us in his corner. And I will make sure that Joe does everything that he needs. And as far as classes, we can find those too as well. But we really would love for you all to today, if you can, we'll grant him to come home.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bailey, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
Yes, sir. I want to let the board know I'm not the same person I was when I came in here, and I gave it all to God because God the one that got me here today in front of this board today. So I had to give it all to God. Mr. Jackie Bunny had said something to me in my last hearing about how did it feel for me to give a life sentence back. This is the grace of God that I had to put my faith and trust in him to get me where I'm at today. Lord grant me today, appreciate God. I want to make it home to my kids. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for what I did to the victim. God, I want to pay him back for whatever damage I did to his car. I have no problem doing that either. So if I just wanted the victim to know I really apologize for what I did to his car.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. The board ready to vote? Mr. Bailey, as I look at your record, you're a 4th offender. You've had a lot of arrests, primarily stealing. You've had an armed robbery mixed up in there. I think you're moving in the right direction. I think the warden gave you some good support. It looks like you're turning your life around. I think you're on the right track. I think you're saying the right words. I do believe that you've got a significant and serious substance abuse issue. You're an alcoholic, and I don't really think you comprehend what that really means. I mean, you said while we were talking about, how much can an alcoholic drink? And you said probably no more than a couple of beers. Well, that tells me you don't really understand the significance of what the alcoholism is all about. Since I asked you, what have you done since your last hearing? And you rattled off about 4 or 5 programs you're taking. But the only program that you've taken since your last hearing was Living in Balance. You took pre-release and Cage Your Rage all before your last hearing. So you have done some good things in terms of substance abuse. Living in Balance gives you that. I believe that you need some long-term substance abuse treatment. And until you get that, we're just setting you up for failure if we don't try to get that for you. I think you need to really come to grips with what your disease is. Your disease is you may have quit smoking marijuana and quit doing what other drugs you were doing and opted just for drinking. But both of those are addictions, and both of those need some treatment. You say the right things, and you got a higher power, you want to go to meetings, but I think you really need to have that ingrained in you. You really need to understand what your triggers are, what your tools are to be able to keep that from going. Sounds like you've got good support. Your fiance is there for you. I just don't think you're ready yet. I think you need some more treatment. But I am gonna afford the opportunity. I'm gonna take a chance on you. I'm gonna grant your parole conditioned upon your completing a long-term substance abuse program while you're in prison. So that's gonna be, you're not getting out now. And unless you complete that program successfully, you won't get out. But that's just one vote. I'm going to wait and see what the rest of my colleagues have to say. Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Bailey, I do agree that you've made some progress, but I also think you need more understanding of addiction and what it takes to overcome it. So my vote also would be to grant conditionally on completion of a long-term DOC substance abuse program.
Mr. Bailey, what's the matter? You okay?
No, I just thought about what Mr. Jackie Barnett told me on my last hearing. It really touched me. Just get my life back in order, back in straight. I know I made a lot of bad decisions in my life. I'm gonna get it right. I promise.
And you also blessed with a lot of opportunities as well. So my vote is the same for the same reasons. Our best wishes to you. Sit on the front row and really pay attention.
Thank you.
Mr. Bailey, your parole has been granted conditionally upon completion of Steve Hall program. And assuming that you complete that program successfully and are placed on parole, special conditions will be that you follow all recommendations of the Steve Hall program, including whatever they advise you to do with reference to AA meetings. You understand that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
That was exceptionally emotional. You can see it in his face through the hearing, the kind of fear and apprehension. You might be surprised when I tell you that he initially was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for breaking into a car. If you've seen enough of these hearings, you wouldn't be surprised. We'll go over the court transcripts. But a judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole because of bills that were passed to correct the insane sentences that are given out to habitual offenders, people with 3 strikes, you're out. He was given a parole date of 2036, and he was denied parole in 2020. For him, he had to go into a prison cell never expecting to get out. If you can only imagine what he's just went through, that emotional release of, oh my God, I'm not going to die in prison. Here's the article. Thank you, Richard. where he went to trial for the 2013 burglary. The 6-person jury convicted him, which of course they were going to convict him. He was 49 years old at the time. I got to tell you though, he looks real good for his age, and he looks much better now than he does in his arrest picture. So, you know, some might argue that prison was the best thing for him, and he's done well, and he's gonna do well. His fiance is like, you know, really has things put together. That was the impression she left me. And you can argue that this is ultimately working out well in the end. Ultimately, you'd have to ask him when he gets out. But I have seen people in many interviews who served long time prison sentences and said it was probably what kept them alive and ultimately was in their best interest. But it's insane to think a judge would have given him a life sentence, and a judge did. So he went to break into a car. It was at a wedding reception, and the valet attendant chased him down. So he smashed the window. Didn't end up getting anything. And they say he could serve up to 12 years in prison. They just, the whole trial probably took like deliberation for less than half an hour. The whole trial probably took like a few hours. And that was it. But then what happened, I'll use this. This is something cool Richard found, Judy Records. And it's the same thing as this, the appeals, but it's just in a cleaner, easier to read format. So I'll put the link in the description if you also prefer this kind of format. And they go through the facts of the case, what happened. They go through, they talk about what they found. There was broken glass and blood inside the vehicle. So he'd broken his arm, not broken his arm, but actually cut himself breaking into the vehicle, which is, I think that tells you something. He didn't even have like a stick to break in. He used his hand, I don't know, or maybe he used a stick and then cut his hand on the glass. And they actually used the DNA to catch him, which is, I didn't know they did DNA tests for simple burglary like this. It's really mind-blowing to me that they would do that. I just had no idea. You would think that they would say, okay, it's another robbery, deal with it. Sorry, call your insurance company. No, they actually bring a sergeant there and they actually write an investigative report and they actually take a DNA. It's that in itself is just totally fascinating to me. I don't know about you. I had my car broken into on the side of the road. This was many years ago. I don't live in that state anymore, in that city. And the cops showed up and they never even got out of their car. And it was a lot of damage. Because the way they broke into the car, it actually damaged. I had to replace the whole lock mechanism because it was like a sophisticated break-in where they triggered the automatic windows, and then they stole a radar detector, Valentine one. It was expensive. It was a lot of actually I had too many valuable things in the car that they took, and the cops never even got out of the car. I could have made the whole thing up because they were on the passenger side and the damage was on the driver's side. I could have made I had another time, someone was upset. I had gotten the parking spot. They dented in my door. The cops don't care. But in this case, they actually got a DNA result. Unbelievable. Anyways, so he was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment, concurrent with probation that he was serving. And then they gave him the habitual offender. And it ultimately ended up being life without parole. And they appealed it and said, hey, come on, he's 49 years old. They said he was employed with 2 jobs. He admitted to having 2 prior felonies and 3 misdemeanor convictions, including a misdemeanor theft in 1984, a misdemeanor theft in 1987, flight from an officer in 2003. I mean, 1984, 1987, 2003, it's not like this is not a hardcore criminal. I mean, according to the record. And he's never had a crime of violence. And the way that they responded, they said, well, in 1990, you had a simple robbery, which was not included in the Habitual Offender Bill of Information. And he had an armed robbery of which he was not the principal, so he wasn't the one with the weapon. So, you might, and he was but he was not the party who physically committed. So, he's not the one holding the weapon, whatever. I think that does mean something. But they basically said no. He was sentenced to mandatory life imprisonment without the benefit of parole. And that's it. Can you believe it? They literally give people who hurt children, cockroaches, chomos, the worst of the worst. They give them probation. They give them 2-year sentences. They give them 5-year sentences. You have people that take lives, that get 25-year sentences and sometimes serve much less. We have seen people take lives and get 8-year sentences because they, for whatever reason, didn't want to go to trial. They did a plea deal. It's just the system is broken. Now, it's nice to see that. I don't know what this stain is. I just put this shirt on. It's just kind of driving me nuts. We have seen. It's just crazy. It's just absolute madness. It's corruption. It's insanity. It's madness. And the idea that he was so close to, it felt like getting denied. I was scared for him. But I think ultimately things did work out in the end with the system, you might argue. And I'm wishing him the best. I hope we don't ever see him again. But that's why we show these hearings. Because if you didn't see it, you might not believe it. But we can do another one. Another hearing. Jump into this one. Okay.
Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 12:41. Our next case is Mr. Isaac Flott. Mr. Flott, if you would please introduce yourself and give us your DOC number.
My name is Isaac Flott, 349888.
Mr. Flott, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we're going to give those who have desired or who have indicated they wish to speak an opportunity to say whatever they'd like to say. You have here today in support your sister, Juanita Flott, and your wife, Letitia Flott, who will be here speaking on your behalf. After we have that hearing, you'll have an opportunity to make a statement to the board, then the board will vote. Do you understand our process?
Sir.
This is a matter of Isaac D. Flott, DOC number 349888. His date of birth is July the 11th of 1975. Well, happy birthday to you. Is today your birthday? Is it right? Well, happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you.
He is a third-class felony offender. He is his parole eligibility date is October the 31st of 2021. He has an adjusted good time date of April the 26th of 2033, a full term date of September the 19th of 2040. He is currently serving a 41-year sentence on armed robbery and contraband. Is that information accurate, Mr. Flott?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Flott, your case has been assigned to Ms. Bonnie Jackson. She will begin our interview process. Would you please answer any questions she might have?
Good afternoon, Mr. Flott, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you, ma'am.
How old are you, Mr. Flott?
48 as of today.
And how much time have you actually served in this case?
I served exactly 25 years of a 40-year sentence.
Okay. Because I was showing 23, but you say it's 25?
Ma'am.
Okay. So you were 23 when you were arrested for this offense?
Actually, I just turned 20 when I did the crime.
Okay. And you're a third offender, so what were your other two convictions for?
Other two convictions was contraband.
No, contraband was, no, you're a third offender. So you have the armed robbery, you have a contraband, so you have to have another conviction to make you a third.
My juvenile conviction, I'm sorry,
No.
my juvenile.
Not, your juvenile conviction wouldn't be on your offender class.
Then on
We'll come back to that. I have to get to your. You had a possession of cocaine in 1995,
yes, ma'am.
and you had a deferred sentence. You were placed on 3 years of probation. You performed poorly while under supervision, and you had your probation revoked in 1998. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So how old were you in 1995?
1995, I was fresh out of high school. I was confused as a young man back then.
We'll get to that. How old were you? How old were you when you picked up that charge?
How was I when I picked, how old I was? I believe I was what? 18, 19 years old at the time. 18, if I can get mad, if I can remember.
But you graduated from high school?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were your plans after graduation?
My point was work, trying to get a job. I was working. I wasn't trying. I had a job at the time, but I got caught up in the
What kind of job did you have?
cooking. I worked at Casa Millana.
Okay. And when did you start getting into trouble and why?
Hanging around the wrong dudes, my neighborhood.
You know, if I could just get those wrong dudes in here, because we just get the ones that hang with them. We don't ever get the wrong dudes, we just get the ones who hang.
Growing up, I grew up with a bunch of knuckleheads, so I got caught up in there with them.
But weren't there other people around you who were doing positive things? Surely there was somebody in your high school, somebody.
Yeah.
So why not choose them?
Well, it is, you're right. And I kind of trying to draw myself from them and went to the crowd that wasn't doing right.
Why do you
So
think that?
Ma'am,
Why do you think that was?
because they had and I wanted. I seen what they had and I know I couldn't get it with the crowd that was doing good. So I went to the crowd that had it. And, you know, by me being young, not thinking, you're gonna go with the crowd that had it. And you know, like I said, I made poor decisions.
Okay, I'll accept that. So you got the cocaine charge, you got revoked, you went to prison, you got out of prison on that charge. What happened when you got out of prison?
Old habits stuck with me. Old
How-
habits stuck.
How long did you actually serve on that cocaine charge?
Oh, I think about a year and a half.
Where did you
Yes.
serve? Where did you serve the time?
I served in the parish, Calcasieu Parish.
Right, so you never went to a DOC facility.
No, ma'am.
So you got out, and then what?
I did good, got a job. I was working at the time, but like I said, I was drawn back to the streets, to the people I hung around with. Cause I lived in that community where I was there every day with them. Even though I was still working, I still was drawn to them. So it kind of, you know, it showed me that I had to do a lot of hard work just to draw myself away from it. And I got caught up. I got drawn back into it.
Well, let's talk about the armed robbery. Because you committed the armed robbery by yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
You have any co-defendants, nobody else was participating in the robbery with you, so why were you committing this robbery? Tell us about what happened around the time of the robbery.
What happened at the time of the robbery was, like I said before, one of the things that I knew I couldn't get on my own, so I had to get the money to get it. And by me being around dudes that did robbery.
Stop right there. What kind of things did you
I
want?
mean, like cars, clothes, you know, just material things, just things I didn't have to do to get that. I could have worked to get it, but I decided not to do it.
Were you back on drugs?
Ma'am?
Were you using drugs?
No, ma'am.
Have
Never
you ever,
drunk.
have you ever used drugs?
No, ma'am.
So it was just, I guess, addiction to money.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So tell us about the day of the robbery. What'd you do?
Oh, staked out the place. Really, a friend of mine had did the robbery earlier that week, and I backdoored and I went and did it again.
So that particular business had been robbed twice?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, tell us what happened on during the robbery that you committed.
Like I said, I staked out the place, I waited, I went in, I was scared. And when the woman was giving me the money, I had the gun at her, and accidentally, she grabbed my hand, and the gun went off.
Why would she grab your hand? Because when you told her to give you the money, she opened the register and was complying with your request to give you the money. So it
And
doesn't sound like she would have grabbed your hand.
she did all that. As she was doing that, after she gave me all the money, like I said, I had the gun at her. But as she opened the register, she tried to grab the gun, my hand, and the gun went off the opposite direction.
Well, she said she got shot on the tip of her finger.
Perfect. Yes, she did.
Said while removing the cash from the cash register, she was shot and hit the tip of her finger. What happened after that?
After that, I asked her was she's all right, and she didn't say nothing. So I took off and I ran.
What about the beer cooler?
Ma'am,
Beer cooler?
was there a cooler? Yes, there was.
Did you put her in the beer cooler?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I ran.
And because she said that you forced her into the beer cooler before fleeing the scene.
I fled the scene, ma'am. After I asked her was she's all right, I just fled.
Well, let me ask you this. The person who robbed the store the first time, Did they tell you what they did? Did they explain to you how they committed the robbery?
In so many words, they just said they went in there, they robbed them gunpoint and told them to open the safe and gave them the cash. And by him telling me that, we talking, I went and did the same thing. Not knowing the situation that I was gonna get myself into.
And how long after the robbery were you arrested?
A few weeks. I say about 3 to 4 weeks.
And you received a 40-year sentence, and then while you were incarcerated, you got a contraband charge that they actually took to court, and you ended up with a conviction for contraband. And the contraband was a cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that. Why did you have a cell phone? How did you have a cell phone?
Well, to be honest with you, ma'am, any person have cell phones, communicate with their families. I had a cell phone. I shouldn't have had a cell phone in the vicinity, which I had. And I paid for that. I shouldn't have had it, and I'm paying my dues for that. They gave me extra year and I spent time on the blocks for that.
Well, I guess I'm curious about that because we get a lot of people with disciplinary write-ups, cell phones, but they don't charge them in criminal court and it doesn't become a felony conviction. It's just, a write-up.
Yes, ma'am.
So was there something about your conduct at that time in prison that made them go that extra step?
Probably because now that they doing it now, if you get caught with a cell phone in a facility now, that they charge you. I mean, I don't know the exclusive things of it, but I got charged for it. I gave them a year for it.
Was that in 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you also have Mojo with you?
Yes, ma'am. Synthetic.
But I show that was your last write-up, 2019. And you had a total of 28 write-ups, and that last one was in 2019. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's talk about your programming. You've done Living in Balance 1 and 2. You've done Pre-Release. You've done Thinking for a Change. What's CYR?
That's Cajun Rage, ma'am.
Okay, you're right. And you did that in 22. You did Pre-Release in 21. Have you done Victim Awareness?
We took that in pre-release.
That's a separate, it's a separate program from Victim Awareness. Why have you only taken a couple of programs since 2019? Why have you done more programming?
I have took, like I say, Rage and Cage. I took Job Life Skills, and now I'm taking Partners in Parenting right now.
You have children?
Yes, ma'am.
Many?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
1,
How old?
32.
And you, boy or girl?
Boy.
Have a relationship with your son?
Yes, I do.
How often do you have communication with him?
Not that he grown, not often, but we talk. We have a strong bond.
Has he ever come to visit you?
Several times.
And I see that at one point you were president of the JC chapter.
Yes, ma'am. I'm vice president now.
Okay. Tell me about your involvement in JC.
Well, like I said, I'm vice president. I am a cook, also a concession manager for the club. I have been a member since I've been in Allen.
And what has attracted you to JC?
The brotherhood.
Are they the people?
Yes, ma'am. Positive people.
What other what's your job at the prison?
My job is I am a D building orderly. I work for the wardens.
And what do you do?
Whatever they tell me to do.
Now,
Whatever it's,
I see that you lost 205 days of good time. Tell us about that.
that was for the write-up, the contraband. And I had just now got it back. I had got 120 days restored.
I did see that. I did see that. And did you go to extended lockdown?
I had went on extended lockdown for the write-up. Yes, ma'am, for the contraband.
How long were you there?
I was there, I believe, for like 9 months.
Would you learn from that experience?
Don't do it again.
Now, I'm looking at your the report from the ARDC specialist, and it says offender does have a history of substance abuse. He is eligible for substance abuse treatment and has completed both phases of living in balance. So that's what it says. Is that incorrect?
I took the class. I finished the class. That's what you asked before to have substance
Yeah, but
abuse.
in order to get in, living in balance is a substance abuse program or class. And that's how you, go ahead.
I request to take the class because I feel like something I need. This was the rest of the class I took. I took it because I like to know and learn from that.
Oh, but why would the ARD specialist, Ms. Harmon, say the offender does have a history of substance abuse? So you had to report it that you had some problems with substance abuse in the past.
I mean, probably marijuana as a child, as a kid, but that wasn't like no habit for me.
Well, my point is, did you ever tell them that you had issues with substance abuse?
I have told them yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have told them I have smoked marijuana as a juvenile, as a young kid. And yes, I told her to put me in a class to learn my habits. But that wasn't, I'm not gonna say that ran my life.
Have you acquired any vocational skills?
Yes, ma'am.
You're
Job life,
What is it?
job life skills.
What
Job
is it?
life skills.
Right.
It's vocational class that teaches you computer skills. In other words, it shows you, it gets you ready for the world.
Some people get certifications in carpentry, in culinary. I mean, I'm talking, have you acquired any actual job skills during your incarceration?
Yes, I misunderstood. Yes, ma'am. I have picked up a few trades at Angola, pipe fitting, welding, shear operator, also coordinator. That is my passion. And also here, coordinator.
Do you cook at the facility? Do you cook now?
Yes, ma'am.
You cook for the JC, but do you cook generally for the inmate population?
I also cook for the inmate population, I also cook for the faculty here.
Okay. And why are you so passionate about cooking?
My grandmother used to cook. My grandmother loved to cook and she taught me how to cook.
Okay. You any good at it?
I could say I have no complaints.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll find out from the staff. Okay. We'll find out about that from the staff.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's your transition to, if you were to be successful today, you've been in prison for 25 years. That's a long time. You went as a very young man, and you're still a young man. So if you were to be successful, what's your plan going forward? Where would you live? Where would you work? Tell me those things.
First of all, I will go work for my auntie. She has houses that she wants to be rebuilt. That's my first task once I get home. I'm gonna live with my wife. We've been together since I was a teenager.
When did you get married? When did you get married? When did you
We got married. We got married in Angola in 2012.
Okay.
I've been
Okay.
married ever since.
And she stuck with you all this time? And she
Yes.
stuck with you all this time?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So where does your wife live?
She stays in Lake Charles.
Okay, so you plan to go to Lake Charles, live with your wife, work for your aunt.
Yes, ma'am. Work also for my aunt, also get me a cooking job, ma'am.
All right. Board and staff, what can you tell us about Mr. Flott? And I also want to hear about that cooking.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Jackson. Well, let me start off by saying that he is a very good cook. He cooked for everybody sitting up here at this table right here. That's pretty much why I want everybody pretty much support on his behalf.
They all look well fed.
Ma'am, I've been here almost a year and a half, and Flott has been my only, pretty much all the entire time. I trust him closely working around my staff. Trust him close working around the other staff that's acting down the walk, and he's doing a real good job here. He really is. Really
Okay.
proud.
All right,
Everybody sitting here at the table from all departments, they're here to support Flott, you know, on behalf of him, actually doing a good job here at the facility.
do y'all want to keep him?
Well, we'll talk about this.
You don't have to look back, they saying no, they saying no behind you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Flott. It was a pleasure talking to you. That's all I have, Ms. Mirabella.
Mr. Flott, let me just say, Judge Jackson and I were judges for a long time, and I know that every now and then there'd be someone that would come up wanting to get out of prison, out of jail, on probation or revocation or something. And oftentimes the sheriff would say, well, you know, he's a real good cook, and I'm not sure I want to let him out, Judge. So, but I hear they're not saying that, so that's a good thing for you. Now we're going to hear from your supporters. Let's hear from your sister, Miss Juanita Flott.
I'm Juanita.
Miss Flott, if you would introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know about your brother.
Well, he's my brother. He's been my brother all of my life. Well, basically all of his life. He's good, and like you said, he is an awesome cook. He learned from my grandmother, which I couldn't learn from her or whatever. And like he said, he will have somewhere to stay, which is my sister-in-law, which is right here, and he will have somewhere to work. I work at Rouse's here in Lake Charles on Nelson Road. And as far as being a cook, we can go ahead and get him in the door and stuff because I'm assistant bakery manager there. So he has everything he needs as far as having employment and stuff like that. He has a very strong family support system, and all the negative things he's been done in the past, that is definitely past him because I put a little weight on, so I think I can take him if you do something you don't have to do. So other than that, he's my heart, he's my everything, he's my best friend, even though he's not here, but he's everything to me, and I love him, and it's time for him to come home.
Thank you very much, Ms. Flott. He's very fortunate to have you as a sister.
Thank
How
you.
about Letitia Flott? You, Ms. Flott?
Yes, I'm his wife. I've been knowing Isaac for 25 years. I've been married to him for like 12 long years. 12 long years. He did some things when he was young, you know, as we all did things when we were young. And I have watched this man grow into a very beautiful man. He was already a beautiful man, but he He learned from his mistakes. He learned from his mistakes. I don't know nobody who don't like him. He's a very good person, loving person. And I'm quite sure y'all gonna miss him, but it's time for him to come on home and cook for us. we hungry over here.
Thank you
But,
very
you
much.
know, but all to the side, I had a near-death experience, and I need him. I don't want him, I need him.
Thank you, Ms. Flott. Mr. Flott, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
Well, I would like to thank all the staff behind me, the wardens and all of them, for giving me the opportunity to show them that I can change. That I am a better man. And, just thanking them. Because without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I'd probably be somewhere stuck in the blocks, but they showed me that there's a way that I can better myself, and I want to thank them for that.
Thank you, Mr. Flott. Panel ready to vote? Okay.
All right, Mr. Flott, there you go. I really enjoyed talking to you today. You did a very good interview. I was certainly impressed by what the warden had to say, and the fact that you have all of the staff members that you have surrounding you to be there to support you says a lot about you. You served 47 years, 25 years. You were a very young man when you went in. I think you've grown, I think you've matured, and I think you're ready. So my vote today would be to grant your early release with the conditions that you perform at least 4 hours of community service work with at-risk youth. And that you report to your parole officer weekly for the first 60 days.
Coming home.
Thank you. Ms. Wise?
All right, Isaac, I was at your hearing in December of 2021, and I just want to commend you how you kept your head down and you stayed focused on this thing. So my vote is to grant as well for the reasons I already stated on the record, and I concur with the special conditions that's already been stated.
Mr. Flott, you have 2 days to grant your parole. You obviously have excellent comments by the warden and the staff. You have an excellent support system. My vote is likewise. The conditions will be that you perform 4 hours of community service work for at youth risk, and that you report to your probation officer, your parole officer weekly for the first 60 days, and of course, follow all of the recommendations and all the requirements of your parole. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all very
Good job,
much.
man. Good job. Good job.
That was a different kind of hearing, a very different kind of hearing. That could be one way to do it. Feed the prison staff and have them all show up to your parole hearing. I don't think we've ever seen that. I mean, if that's not sending a message, I don't know if anything else is. I don't have records of his crimes, so I'm really just going to have to talk I guess just through this hearing, and then we'll do one more hearing after this. It was just totally, it was very lighthearted. I think there was kind of an expectation of what was going to happen at the end of it, and I'm fine with all of that. Although I didn't think he was, it's hard to understand, to believe that he was being honest in the whole not locking her in the ice cooler thing. I mean, that's what she said happened. I would believe her incident, her account of what happened, what she gave, what's put on the police report over what's happening now. And we've seen people just it's like just deny certain things of their crime, and I can't figure it out. Is it that they rewrote their history? Is it that they forgot? Is it, I just don't it's fascinating to me. Another part, Miss Jackson was kind of on a roll with her zingers, and she kind of had a few mic drop moments, classic Miss Jackson, classic Judge Jackson moments, when he said, I was just hanging out with the wrong group of guys. And she's like, if I can just get those wrong dudes in here. I burst out laughing. That was so funny because her point was, it's like, yeah, it's always these other group of guys' faults, because we hear the same type of excuses or stories. It's like, when you see so many of these hearings, it's kind of just it's so redundant and repetitive. It's almost an anomaly. How is it that everyone has that same excuse? And as a judge, you just get really bored of hearing it because you're the one who's locked up. How do you know that you're not the bad dude and it's the other people? They're all saying that it's the other dude they hang out with who's the bad dude. Then we had another kind of classic scenario where the gun just went off. I mean, we hear that all the time too. And I do think we need to have like a class action lawsuit or like a massive conspiracy investigation that all of these criminals buy these faulty weapons that discharge on their own. That was my attempt at a mic drop joke. Also changed my shirt. I literally took it off the hanger and put it on, and it had a stain on it. I don't know how. He said he had the weapon at her. She grabbed it, which I also don't believe. I just don't. So it's like, to me, it's like another. He insisted. He said that's how it happened. Maybe it did, but it's hard to, maybe she was just sick and tired that she was just robbed the other day. But I mean, you got to be a different kind of nuts to do that. She gave him the money, and then he claims that she went and grabbed the weapon. He shot. Of course, he claims that it just went off when she grabbed it, and it took the tip of her finger off. And he claims he said sorry and ran out. It's just not believable. And I think that the true counts of the events, I think what Miss Jackson was going at was that he had the weapon in front of her. Maybe he's young, he's intoxicated, he's has no trigger control, no trigger discipline, right? His fingers on the trigger, which it should never be, and he pulled it by mistake. That's more believable to me. And I believe he could have said sorry. I do believe it could have been a mistake. And then he forces her in the freezer and runs out. I could believe that. Either way, it's interesting. He got a 41-year sentence. Is that what it was? And he served 40 years. Yeah, 41. And he served 25 years, which is a long time. And we see people who do red rum that serve less, but he does seem to have done really well. It was funny too when they when another Miss Jackson thing, did you want to keep him? And they all said no. And I know they were saying it because they liked him, but you might say, oh man, maybe they really don't like his cooking. And they all showed up just to get him out because they're like, we don't like his cooking, which I know is not true. Then Miss Jackson had to say, well, you all look well fed, which they really do. And I don't know if she realized what she was saying, but if I was sitting back there, I would have been like, hey, that's not nice. I don't want someone to tell me I look well fed, although I definitely am well fed and I definitely do look well fed. But now they have to find a new cook. Maybe you remember the hearing I did where they ended the last hearing with enjoy that last meal. Maybe you remember that, but that was regarding this hearing because he's gonna make them the last celebratory meal and then get released. I'm rooting for him. I really am. And this, you might again argue this could be another scenario where prison was ultimately the best thing for him. I mean, it's you'd have to ask him to find out, but ultimately, but I mean, it's also the interesting thing how the woman married him, and I've always wondered about that. And I've told you before, I did have someone write me who had married a man in prison for life, and she was kind enough to write me, and she told me different reasons why she chose it, and what all the reasons that I assumed, like security, knowing that he's not going anywhere, things like that, weren't brought up. But other reasons that were brought up were, one is she had served a prison sentence, so she was able to relate, and that was important to her. And another was the level of intimacy that you can create from writing, from letter writing. And I didn't think of that. It's a lost art. When was the last time you sat down and wrote a letter? And you can actually create, I guess, a different level. You just can't get that anymore. And we're all addicted to our electronics, our phones, we're to just sit down and have even a conversation for 5 or 10 minutes is probably a pretty big moment. And here you can have someone that you're writing these daily 10-page letters. So that was interesting. But let's jump into this final hearing of the day. Let's do it.
Order or will? We're in sequence? No?
Wherever we were.
Yeah, let's do it. The time is 1:18. Our next case is Mr. Charles Henry. Mr. Henry, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Charles Wayne Henry, 104743.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, let me explain our process to you. I'm going to read some information into the record, and then the board is going to conduct a parole interview with you. At the end of that interview, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board, and then we'll vote. You understand our process?
Sure.
This is a matter of Charles W. Henry, 104743, date of birth May the 2nd of 1957. He is a fourth felony offender. He has a parole eligibility date of July the 27th of 2011, an adjusted good time date of May the 3rd of 2029, full term date of April the 28th of 2030. He is serving a 25-year sentence on the charge of possession of alprazolam after having been adjudicated a habitual offender. Mr. Henry, is that information fairly accurate?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Henry, your case has been assigned to Ms. Earl Wise. She will begin our interview process. If you would please answer her questions.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm here.
Yeah, it's been a long day, huh? You done watched a lot of them come out, huh?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right. You're next to last of the day for us.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned about you, sir. You had a lot of hospital stays from 2011 up to 2023. How are you medically?
Yeah, I'm here and there. That's the grace of God. I'm still here.
Okay, you in regular population?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. So you feeling well today, huh?
Yes, yes. butterflies in my stomach, but
Other than that, that means you are well right there. That means you are well. Since you had a hearing, when was your hearing? I had it written here somewhere. You had a hearing, you were denied in 2019. Prior criminal history, you had a moderate risk, and there was some write-ups. You had they wanted you to have a more sustained period write-up free. You remember that in 2019?
Yes, ma'am.
You reapplied, and on 3/29/23, you were granted a rehearing, and so now here we are today, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But I'm seeing the same situation with write-ups. You've had 4 since your last hearing. What's going on?
I haven't had nothing in going on 2 years, if you look at it correctly.
That's correct. You haven't had one in 2 years. That's correct. That is correct. Your last hearing was in 2019. I'm showing your last deal. When was your last? You tell me, when was your last write-up?
Ooh. I can't remember.
Yeah, in 2021. From 2017 to 2021, you had 6 21Es.
Yes, I did. I got out of control. Just at the time got to me, and just, you know what I'm saying, I take my lick for them. I was wrong, and when I did the time, I apologized to the young ladies that I did it to, because it wasn't right, and I accept, my responsibility for being wrong.
So all these 21Es involve female staff?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's something. That is something. That's quite concerning for me. And I'm glad to hear that you apologize, but it doesn't take it. But it doesn't take it away.
Yes, but I feel bad about it myself. It was something. I let my mind play tricks on me, and it happened. So
Okay.
I just took my lick.
So you was in a working cell block in 2020, right?
Yes,
Was the
ma'am.
last time you was in a working cell block? When did you get out?
Ooh, I didn't stay for 30 days.
Okay.
Then after that, I realized one thing. If I want to go home, I know I can't keep doing this in here because it don't make no sense. And so, I let the Lord come in my life and change it. And he made the move for me. It wasn't nothing I did. It was him. So that's why I was able to get past those write-ups and go them 2 years without the write-up because of him, because I put it in his hands. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, I try to be a better person. I started out at this camp in 06, in 5 years here. And so they shipped me from here to Winfield. From Winfield, I went to Hunts. So I did a lot of time at Hunts, and Hunts was wild, And so Hunts ended up sending me back here. This is where I started from. So, I look at it like this, and I'm back where I started from, and hey, this is where I go home from, where I started from.
I do want to inform you as a part of this process, reach out to the law enforcement community, get their opinion, and there's opposition to your early release in the law enforcement community. And there's another assessment we do, we call a needs assessment, and you rate high in that. And that's concerning. It's about your substance abuse, your antisocial thinking, and a lot of areas for it, transportation and education. So that means you kind of have an uphill climb. Do you need any substance abuse treatment? What do you think?
Well, I think I do. I really, I ain't going to deny it.
What was your drug of choice?
Because, on the streets, I used to shoot cocaine.
Okay. How many years do you think? How many years?
Oh, wow. It's been some years.
Okay.
All the way up until I got knocked off on this charge here.
Okay.
I was 48 years old when I got knocked off on this charge. So, you know, it's been all the way up to, I started when I was around about 20, you know, but from 20 on up, I just been shooting drugs, but hey, you know, but I did the drugs, but I used to always, when I get full of the drugs, it was just something that would make me call on the Lord.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and
Yeah,
he
you got-
involved me.
so what do you do every day now at the prison?
Well, I'm in Satin and I work on endo maintenance. Right now, I'm doing some painting on the tiers. I'm painting the tiers. Yes, ma'am.
And you got 11 years of education. Have you tried to get your heart set? Have you worked on it?
Okay, when I was at Hunt's, I went back to get my GED, but my stomach was messed up I had a hernia. And
Okay.
my stomach had swollen up like this, and so it was inconvenience for me to continue to go to class, and so they just put me out. And so by the time I did, you know, they did cut me back, you know, take the thing out of my stomach. They shipped me here, and so I just didn't get in school here.
Oh, okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. How old are you today? Cover it out for the record. How old are you?
I'm 66.
And how long you been in jail on this charge for the record?
I did 18 years.
10 years, okay. And for your 66 years of living, how many years would you say you spent in prison?
I'm about 36 or 46.
Are you ready to go? Ready to go home?
I'm tired of being locked up.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to die in no prison.
Okay.
And I ain't just saying this, you know. I feel like the charge I had, I didn't hurt nobody but myself. I wasn't trying to sell no drugs to nobody. The drugs I had, they was for me. So the harm I did, I was doing it to myself. So,
Yes.
you know, I'm not no really bad person. You know, I just did some mess up things in life by messing with drugs. But you know, I take my punishment for it. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like they gave me too much time for the pills that I had, 25 years, that was too much. I did 18 years, but at first I was mad saying that the court had messed up me. But I look back over my life and realized one thing, it wasn't the court. See, in 2004, I went back to church and I told the Lord I was gonna serve him. I was studying messing with this girl that did drugs, but hey, I got back on the drugs. So I feel like in 2005, I catch this charge. See, that one thing about when you tell the Lord something, you got to stay with it. So otherwise, it ain't so much about what the people did. I'm looking at what I did. I lied to the Lord and he chastised me. So
That's
I
wisdom.
look at it like,
Good. I'm gonna stop you right there, Mr. Henry. That's wisdom. I'm glad to hear you talking with wisdom. That's good. Warren, what can you tell us about Mr. Henry?
Well, Mr. Henry and I talked on the other day, and I talked to him several times down the walk. I think he got good intentions, but even though at the age that he is, he still actually got a little work back to do. He and I spoke in regards to his substance abuse situations. I really believe he still needs some assistance and needs some help with that, because when you get out there in society, it's a total different situation there. And I think he just need a little more help in that particular area.
All right, thank you, Warren. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I do. Mr. Where's your family?
well, my family, I'm from Shreveport.
Me
My
too.
brother lived in Atlanta and my sister lived in Shreveport, but we like that there. But they know me and my brother, me and him, we real tight. But my sister, since my mother and father passed away, you know, you got certain people in your family to be
Yeah,
grieving.
but listen
So-
to me. Okay, I want to stop talking. I want you to listen to me. You know, you've been in prison a long time,
Yes, ma'am.
and it's hard to adjust to life on the outside, even under the best of circumstances. And one of the ways that people are successful is when they have good family support. And so when I see that nobody is here for you, nobody has, come to speak up on your behalf, it makes me worry. How are you gonna make it in the world if you don't have a family that you can fall back on to help you?
Okay, well, my brother will help me, but I forgot to give him the information to, speak up for me because that's who take
Hey,
care
well,
of me.
listen to me, where would you live? How
I'm,
would you?
oh, my grandmother's, yes. I'm living in my grandmother's house.
How do you know your family's gonna, how do you know, families getting in squabbles about things like that? How do you know they're not gonna not want you to live there?
Well, my uncle living there, youngest son, and he already told me that's what he want me to come.
How you gonna support yourself?
Oh, well, I work. I'm gonna be working. My cousin on a landscaping business. That's what I'm working with before I came to jail. So that's what I'm, be working with. My cousin, he's on a landscape business.
That's hard work for a young man. It's really hard work for an older man.
Well, he and Ronnie, I'm gonna be probably just watering the grass or putting down flowers or something.
All right, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
I recommend executive session to
Okay.
discuss confidential matter related to this case.
Second.
There's been a motion and second. Let's call the roll. Yes.
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 Mr. Henry, we're going to pause this hearing for a second. We're going to go into executive session to discuss matters of confidential nature. So we're going to be at recess very shortly. We'll come back with a decision in a few moments, okay?
Gonna have a seat outside.
I had it on mute. So this is a heart-wrenching one for me. You can see that the board wants to release him, but I would argue this is the kind of case that the parole project should take. Where is the parole project? I don't know how it is that they pick their clients, as they call them, because it does seem that they have a slew of clients that just really shouldn't be getting out. And then there are others where it's like, this is it. This is what the parole project is here for, because this man has no family. He's institutionalized. Like Miss Jackson said, he'll get out. And then what? And I don't have any records of him. I can't find anything. I mean, he didn't even appeal his habitual sentence that he got for basically, I think, Valium, like Xanax, right? I always wonder, how did he, why did he not just eat it? How much was it? How, maybe there's more details to but can you imagine getting a life sentence for being caught with that as an habitual offender? And of course, the one really scary thing is the 21 write-ups involving female staff members, which I think was all inappropriate behavior towards female staff. That is, of course, really concerning. As Miss Wise, she was kind of funny when she was like, oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that's concerning to me in so many words. And it's concerning to me too. I missed it. I didn't catch when the span of those write-ups happened and stopped. I just missed that. So, You know, if they stopped 10 years
The
ago,
committee on parole is called back to order. The time is 1:35. I think the committee is ready to vote. Ms. West?
Wait, we don't have.
Oh, we lost that. Okay, Mr. Henry, we're back in session. The committee is ready to vote. Ms. Wise?
Mr. Henry, I enjoyed talking with you. I want you to know that when I reviewed your stuff last night, I didn't think, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I was like, Yeah. But I like your honesty. And you spoke with wisdom. I'm gonna put it like this. So my vote is to grant after you complete the long-term substance abuse program at Steve Hall. When you complete that, they're gonna give you a release plan telling you what you need to do, how many AA, how many NA meetings you need to attend, and you need to follow that. I want you to report weekly to probation and parole for the first 3 months when you get out, just to kind of get acclimated and make sure you're talking to, and your residence plan is gonna have to be approved anyway before you leave. So hopefully, begin to work on your transition plan now. That is my vote.
Thank you, Ms. Wise. Ms. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Henry, I'm gonna take a chance on you as well. My vote is to grant condition upon completion of the Steve Well substance abuse treatment. So good luck to you. Get in the program, work hard.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Henry, I enjoyed the interview with you. You said something that resonated with me, and that is, you think you got a lot of time for a few pills. And I've been in the criminal justice system for right at 50 years. And I agree with you. You've got a lot of time for a few pills. But if you get out and you get caught again, you know what's going to happen. You'll never get out again. So I agree with my colleagues. My vote is to grant conditionally upon your enrolling in and completing the Steve Hall program and following all of their recommendations. And Bonnie, somebody said something.
Report weekly for the first 3 weeks when you get out.
Report weekly for the first 3 weeks when you get out. So good luck to you, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Ma'am?
All right, good luck.
got a lot of time for a few pills. That's absolutely right. It's what we've seen. We've already done this hearing, so that's it for the day. But it's really something. You just wouldn't believe it unless you've seen it. He got, again, like the other cases that we saw today, he got slapped with an habitual offender. He probably had no idea. He's caught with a few pills. He probably has regretted his whole life. Why? All he had to do was, ingest it, and they wouldn't have had anything on him, I assume. And sometimes they drop it for a plea deal. If he took a plea deal, I don't really know. Oftentimes what happens with these habitual offender cases is they just say, oh, okay, we'll give you a 6-month or 1 year or 2 year sentence. And then they slap the habitual offender a year later, 2 years later, basically before he gets out. And they can even slap it on once you get out. They don't care. They retroactively and they give you life. We've seen that happen. It's that corrupt of a system. I think I call it corrupt to lock someone away for life. It was madness. It's madness. And that's why they created the bills to, retroact that, and they're trying to correct the system. But to think that in the United States of America, a first world country, that a man can get locked away for life without the possibility of parole and never have committed anything violent or any offenses against, it's just because they're an addict. And that's madness. Again, the whole write-ups against the woman thing, we don't have details on it. It seems like, for me, that would just be really terrifying, but we just don't have enough information. Like, I missed it. When was the last write-up, right? If he's able to gain control. And did he have anything on the outside, which I just assume he didn't. And maybe it was just like an immaturity thing. I don't really know. It is scary because I don't think we've ever seen anything like that. But if I just want to put my blinders on and hope that was just some, he's still, can you imagine he gets out after all these years and, I mean, remember, he was eligible for parole in 2011. He's been denied. Like, we don't often see people who have parole eligibility dates in 2011 and they're still locked up. It took him all the way until 2023 to get parole. And he got a 25-year sentence for this. I don't know if it was. But I'm wishing him well, although I don't know how he can succeed out there without help. I actually don't. No one shows up to his parole hearing. It's sad, but we've seen a lot today, and a lot of it you wouldn't believe unless you've seen it, and that's why we do this. Please do the YouTube algorithm thing. It really does help. What can I say? That's why I ask for the help, because it does. And with that, I'll let you go.